Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I always want to look at the TV when I'm.
Yeah, because it's, yeah.
How are we doing? Are we on?
Yep.
Terrific. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the City of Westminster Historic District Commission. Tonight is February 1st of 2023. We are having our regular Historic District Commission meetings, and I want to start with a quick roll call. I have here
Chris Amadores.
Kristen McMaster's chair.
Grace and Kelly.
That's right. And I want to call us to order with our statement of authority. The Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from Chapter 164, the Article 9 of the City Code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article, Division 1, Single Jurisdiction Planning and Zoning, Title 8, Historic Preservation. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commission are on file at the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street, and the file is open to the public. So I'd like to welcome everybody, and let's start with our published agenda. Old business, item A. So I'd like to do a real quick update on the implementation proposals on the memos that we put out on how we might want to implementation some increased historic preservation work here in the city. I had a great meeting with city staff on the 26th of January. We had a fairly intense couple hours of going over our portion of the city's preservation plan and some of the smaller implementation strategies that we proposed from the last year that we've been working on it. We had a workshop in August where we came up with some specific strategies that would hone in on what we should be doing for this preservation plan. And I was privileged to meet with Mark and Andrea and Melissa in advance of that city staff meeting on the 26th, just so I could kind of refresh my mind and better communicate to city staff what we were proposing, because it was a pretty dense implementation plan. And I got the great opportunity to talk with Sarah M. Holtz, our city administrator. Is that her title?
Yes.
And go over some of our proposals. She's a little bit new to historic preservation planning. That's, she hasn't really spent a whole lot of time working on it, but she has worked on some projects that were preservation planning. And I find that after a career of working in preservation planning, I do tend to use some jargon. And so we spent a little time actually having Mark put in English what I put in paper and thought was clear as a bell. And realizing as I'm reading it to her that it may be more technical than it should have been. But we were able to get through implementation plan number 5 pretty crisply, but then we started really running out of time. And even the room was scheduled for someone else. So implementation strategies under 6 and 7 were run over pretty quickly, as quickly as we could. Maybe there was a number 8, boy, it got really glossed over. It's like we're putting our coats on. Number 8. But I know that numbers 1 through 5 were thoroughly vetted and considered and weighed. And the one thing Sarah was really clear with me was that she was not going to say yes or no at first blush or first presentation. She was going to really take her time and do some research and think about things, let it percolate in. But by the 23rd of February, she would come back with a response to every one of those implementation things. And that some of those responses might not be responses we like as a commission, but that it may be, yes, I'm in agreement. This is a good direction for the Historic Preservation Commission to take off in, or maybe I need more information and I still am not clear as to why you think this is a good direction. So she seemed very open, didn't imply to me that anything was off the table. I tried to be as open as I could and said, these plans are best practices and our highest aspirations. But, one of our recommendations was to increase the tax credit to 20%. And maybe that's feasible or not. She's got to run the numbers. She's got to see if that's something we can do, kind of weigh the city staff time and how, difficult that might be. Perhaps I'm speaking too much, but the one impression I had was that she kind of assumed what we did last year, that if we wrote conditions on the demo permits, they were automatic. And Mark let her know what the actual direction to him as director of planning is. So I think she was a little surprised at that wrinkle, and it indicated to me that, there's some common sense things that need to be cleaned up and changed. So I think we're in a good trajectory, and I think that she committed to me that she's going to spend some time thinking about this and moving forward with it. Any questions from the commissioners? The staff clarify me at all? You all were there.
No, I think you did a great job representing the Historic District Commission. I agree with everything you said. I think when staff met, myself, Melissa and Andrew were able to sit down with Chair McMasters. We did, as we talked about, try to separate and look at what needs Marion County Council approval or processing in some aspects, whether it's through a text amendment or through some policy change, and what things can the ACC kind of the just do it things that you're charged with doing, and looking at balancing that time with HTC involvement and staff involvement. So, and that was a great way, as Chairman Masters mentioned, we spent quite a lot of time going through that and trying to figure out the processing as well. So we were prepared when we met with the city administrator, and I agree, she was open to our comments, and I thought also provided some different approaches that we may think about that we possibly did not consider. And I think she's trying, and then to the feeling I got, she's trying to find, okay, if not this specific path, is there another thing that could be done? So I think it went well.
I really got the feeling that she's used to handling a lot of problems and was able to really laser in on what you want to accomplish and not so much how you want to accomplish it.
Exactly. I think that was the theme. What are you trying to get accomplished with this goal, with this strategy?
So I think it was really positive, I think. There were a couple of places that were real clear to me that we need to start thinking as a commission what we're willing to do as well. I mean, working through ordinances like we have, giving model pieces of work so the city has some idea of what we'd like to see happen is all well and good, but there's some pieces like the educational pieces, we really will need people to step forward and say, I'm willing to write something for the city to edit, to go into the sewer and water. It would be important if we had someone on the commission who would put their hand up and say, I'm willing to do the educational aspect of writing the sewer letter every 4 months or 3 months. Another thing I found working with the Celebrate America group is that, a lot of our partners got to be in some of the free publications in the library. And again, that was just a write-up and a picture. But I don't think the city staff are looking for more jobs. I think that's really something that can be done by us as an education effort and then just circulated through staff for a yes or no. And it's the kind of thing that we can do and keep track of. So we have to kind of be thinking what pieces of the puzzle of improvement do we want to do? And I'll leave that on the table and we'll probably get assignments soon.
Well, I think we're all in it.
Good. All right, so no more discussion about item A. Off to B, National History Day. So Melissa sent out all the topics and themes that are coming with National History Day. I got the first round call for judges. They were only asking for one judge out of this organization, and I grabbed it. If they come around with the second round, do either of you guys have that kind of time?
Not for this year when it's being held, so now.
Is it day during the day?
Oh, well, you have to, their projects are usually submitted electronically,
Okay,
but you still only have like 3 days to get
okay,
turned around and back in. And then the event is on Saturday, the 25th.
It's the last Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I can.
And if we get a second round, I'll send out the request to you guys just to give you one more chance, but it's there's only one real local topic, and it's not architecture. So the next year, you might want to think about how we change our prize level, if it's a way that we can do better in the sewer letter promoting that topic, or if we could put it on our website or something, that this is the kind of thing, and this is, maybe we could actually put some prize money into it. We've never had cash on the line. It's always been an honorific letter of acknowledgement, so maybe we'll get more people applying that way. Anyway, National History Day, the topics went out to you all. I hope you all find it interesting enough to participate, maybe show up that day on Saturday and see what the kids are doing. It's always a great photo op, if nothing else. Okay. Are we ready to move on to item C?
Yep.
All right, Westminster Historic District Facebook. So I've been having plans from Melissa to do more social media, and of course, our Facebook site would be the first place to start, right?
It would, and so last month when we were virtual, we went on Facebook and we looked at what is on for the Westminster Historic District, like as a title, which is not something that is run through this body. And then there was someone's forehead on the page, and so just did a little due diligence, reached out to the best of my ability. I haven't heard back from that person who had posted, so I just messaged them through my own account. Still waiting for them to like view it. It hasn't even been viewed. And then I clicked the call now button that was up there, and it's just so interesting and bizarre because it was linked to the Chamber of Commerce in Weston, Missouri. Just so bizarre. So I had a great time talking with those ladies in that office. And so they were gonna message Facebook and try and like correct some things. So, but moving forward, that really needs to be a priority item. I'll talk with Mark, but seeing how we can accomplish something from this body. And personally, what I would like to see is content from you all and having that shared on our Downtown Westminster page.
All right, well, and I did a little research. I'm stunned to find I don't have the social media policy that I worked so hard on with the Historical Society, but I'm sure they'll share it with me. They have a statement policy on their website, but it's only a paragraph. And basically just says we'll put up and take down whatever we feel like. And it's not a 24-hour monitored site because nobody's paid to do that down there. But I'll keep working on that. And also I have a couple of months worth of a plan, social media plan that has all the topics that were presented over a month or two, because I was in charge of that for a couple of years. And you can kind of see how you lay out for an organization like that, the kind of things that are appropriate, like our meetings and resources and things happening in the district that might be of interest to people who have a historic event, and not even be able to sort of step into things like how can you save history in your neighborhood or whatever, little discussion points for the folks. It is particularly hard to start dialogue. People don't feel comfortable in the topic of dialogue, except for I remember when, and that's more the Historical Society's bent. We're more looking at preserving the fabric, the quilt of history right here in town. So that's where we're looking towards. So I'm glad to hear that. Can we keep that on the agendas?
Yeah.
So that'd be good. All right, any more on item C?
It's not really Facebook social media, but we do have a new video up for the Historic District Commission. That is an intro to the Westminster Historic District Commission and local tax credits. that Chair McMaster was nice enough to share with us, and it is online and active now.
Yes. Last May. Well, every May, just to back up, every May is National Historic Preservation Month. And last May, I did a talk with the Historical Society on our tax credits. And I tried to do something preservation-y every week of the month last year. And so it's on YouTube, and it's honestly not a bad introduction to doing tax credit within the city. I try really hard because that was a countywide audience to say, if you're not in the city, still listen, because there are state tax credits and there are federal tax credits. And in most cases, you can get 50% of everything covered if you're patient and fill out the paperwork. And so I try to discuss the fact that our rules are no different than the state rules, no different than the federal rules. We have no daylight between those rules. It's just we try to package it. It's just to say, citizens, and then we're willing to help them fill out those other opportunities for cash. So it's a good primer. And I was thinking at one point, get to save city staff time if you make them hit the YouTube before they come and talk to you, because then they can hear about what's acceptable and just what isn't.
Well, we'll be using that.
Yeah.
first.
And of course, if we change our amounts or whatever, then maybe we can, I would hate to retake it, but maybe we just tell people that there's an errata. This has changed slightly. All right, anything else social media education wise?
No, that was good.
Okay, good. All right, well, let's move to new business. All right, so we had the review of 7173 West Main Street. And Melissa, I do have one question before we launch into this. So I don't have the application form here.
Oh, are you talking about for the tax credit? So we didn't,
Let me backtrack. Ultimately, they can still move forward with the tax credit request and facade improvement program. This is one of those cursory reviews that they're doing an architectural change and elevation change to and adding a building to this property that they have a simplified site plan in, and I'm not providing comments until I hear from it. So we kind of pushed them this way first. Obviously, if they want to take advantage of the tax credits and facade improvement program, we'll be back for that. This is solely the architectural elevations only of the addition they're proposing.
Okay, so it's not a facade grant and it's not a tax credit request. This is a design review, a preliminary design review. All right, because I'm missing a form and it's like.
Exactly.
How can I sign on the form if I don't have it?
I know. Hopefully we can go in that direction, and I think Chair McMaster's is a great resource right now too for answering questions on that, and I'm still brushing up on tax credits. I've been doing a lot of facade review this last few months. But I have a PowerPoint to ease us into this. You ready? Yeah, and of course we have Patrick here, and I missed your name. Danielle. To explain all of the details. So I'll just do a general overview and they can dive deeply into it. So here's the building as it has existed on Friday when I took this photo. You can see the snowman on it for the holidays. So this is 71 and 73 West Main Street. The location is on next to the parking lot, the private lot, and next door to Rock Salt Grill, across from Carroll Street. Here's a close-up of their site plan. So we received the site plan in November for renovations, and it's a 2-story commercial and residential building. There's currently no tenants using the first floor area, but the most recent one was Furnace Hills Coffee. The building is proposing, you can see in the center there's very unique 2-story addition right in the middle. I estimated it to be about 530 square feet, and with the proposed concrete pad. There are some front facade improvements proposed to be made. The owner is planning to remove and replace the cornice, to add decorative accent panels, remove and replace 5 two-story level windows, remove and replacing the 1-level cornice, adjusting the center commercial front window and door to adjust for a 36-inch door, and replacing the door on the far right with a window. And the door on the far left is proposed to be locked. And the new door in the center, actually, it's probably a better picture. Here you go. Will have a new like walk-up stairwell. So the west parking lot facing side of the building has, you can see that the back section is the proposed addition with the 4 windows included in there, with vinyl siding, which matches the existing vinyl siding on the side there. And the roof is proposed to be an asphalt shingle, which I believe matches the existing. I'm really not sure if there is an existing.
The entire roof is going to be replaced.
Okay.
Yep.
So
What's up there right now? Is it standing seam?
It's all shingle,
It's currently shingle.
correct. It's just gonna be replacing the existing shingles with a new to match, so the entire thing will match.
So we just brought, like Mark said, we're here to have you review and look at for historical architecture and that sort of thing, and feel free to add anything if you'd like.
Thank you. Yeah, so the plans that are currently here are not 100% set in stone because we need to have everything approved. These plans are in addition to what had already been approved. So we're just proposing on adding a second level to what was already approved. If you guys are good with the vinyl siding that is currently proposed, that is our lesser of the 2 options. We would really like to go with a more like farmhouse look. But it all really depends. So I don't want to shoot for something that's a lot more expensive and that get approved and then come back. So this is the original plan right now that we have. But that addition that we're asking for is going to be an executive apartment. So that is going to be for medium term kind of rentals, furnished apartment for either professors at the college or business people coming in, traveling nurses, different things like that. That's our goal for that apartment that we're asking what's up there.
So I just so I really understand what I'm looking at before I start reading. So is this blue new or is that existing?
That was just the windows. All that's existing. That's where the windows are gonna go in on the side.
But this blue outline just indicates what?
That just indicates where the windows are gonna go. So this is the design.
This
Just
is
a rough
the
design.
design, it's not an existing record of what's really there.
That's side.
That's the side, yeah.
And so there are no windows in that, you're putting windows.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
is that a garage?
That is.
I can't see very far.
So there was a building in between these 2. If you guys have went down Main Street multiple times, there was a building in between that was already there. And there was a building behind that right there. So when the previous owner purchased it, he found out that there wasn't a foundation in between those 2 buildings. So he took that down and it was approved already for 1 level for a commercial space.
Mhm.
So all of that was already approved and I could go and build that, but I am asking for a second story on the back because I would like to have another apartment and more space for downtown. And that is what we're looking at now. And that building that was there in the back is requirement for parking and the handicap parking, ADA compliance, all of that. So
that would come down. That existing standing seam,
no, that's saying
that's staying, okay.
there was a building behind that. And that is already going. So all I'm asking is, can I just put back what was there and already downtown for years. It's actually would be more different not having it than having this.
All right, so let me just give you some of the thoughts that we would have if we were funding this with the tax credit and our best practices approach.
Mhm.
And you can kind of weigh that for yourselves as to whether or not you would ever even consider a 10% tax credit. And then taking the same concepts and same practices and packaging it for a state tax credit of 20% for rehab and rehabilitation of this property. And then there's a federal one, because this is all going to be commercial. It's not going to be your home or residence. So there's yet another 20% tax credit that is also available, making your actual final project 50%, which is probably better than you were counting on with just our little 10%.
Exactly.
However, there's some practices and thoughts that are maybe a little different. It's never been set up to be the cheapest option. There will be a little bit more expense, and that's what these credits are hoping to offset. So it's not a bonanza for economic development, and it has no other purpose than historic preservation. And that is keeping the old fabric. Doesn't mean that if it's, completely broken or something, it can't be rehabbed. But it does mean that you're not updating things just for cosmetic purposes or eye-catching or not necessarily all for historic preservation. So if you look at this structure and say, what are the major elements that Main Street sees and enjoys? Currently, it's 3 entrances. And so to replace those 2 with windows is possible. However, it would be something that you'd want to stay within the same scope and frame so that when you look at that building, it still makes sense. It still looks like 2 buildings that were there in the 1880s. The cornice work is all really valuable. And it is kind of a signature piece of the rest of the 1880s downtown. It was what was seen by those visitors in the late 1800s when they came here to visit. So the cornice work would be super important. And there were people out there who would get their IT to have intact cornice work because it's really expensive to fix. When chunks of it rot off, to get an artisan up there to replicate it, it's unbelievable. And to talk about replication, super important that whatever you do can be reversed. That is, if you sell, go somewhere else, someone with a like mind to preserve the past and preserve our district can go in and say, the doors were removed, we can put them back in. The cornices were removed, I don't know how you would ever put them. Whatever you do needs to be reversible.
I do understand that. So the 3 entrances on the front, one was for the left side of the commercial space, because there's 2 commercial space downstairs. One was for the right side of the commercial space. And then one was leading up to the apartment for upstairs. So that's why it's taking that door out to put a window, basically the same in that space, but that's why that's there, because there would be 2 doors leading into.
And anybody who reads this historic building looks at it and absolutely knows that. I mean, this telegraphs that. If you take a look, everybody would know what each of those doors really are for. And it makes a lot more sense in some ways. And if you look at a couple of our buildings that have windows, if you look at those windows, it's like, who does that? I mean, if you're looking at best practices for historic preservation, it's probably not something that's, and I can pretty much tell you neither with the state or the feds. They would look at that and say, that's actually taking out and damaging rather than preserving and protecting the historical look of the building.
So it would be to keep the door there.
That would be the recommendation. You could seal it in glass, so it's really clear, first of all, that there's less heat loss, and also that that's not to be used. There's a telegraphing here in the front. There's literally no step in front of this door, so clearly nobody wants you using it. And the way that you've put the front step, the handicap step, that telegraphs to go into only that part of the building. So, there are ways you can indicate that there's still a door here, or this was the historic entrance, but today, this is the historic entrance, with the handicap access.
Understand? So, I mean, if we were to put a glass window in front of the door all the way on the end, then that would constitute.
Or even paint it in. Let's say you really wanted true visual barrier. Put in a glass window, paint it in, lock it up. Nobody's going in that way, even a sign is. I mean, there are ways visually you can do it, so it's not horrific, but it's super clear to anyone coming along that it's even in a glass door that has no handles, Well, this is not the way we want you to come in. So it's just a thought. I mean, there may be other things I haven't thought of. Also the vinyl is not an original material. I think that it would be worth exploring the brick, because that's the sort of thing we can support, the state and the feds can support. Some sort of, even if it was just a brick veneer. It would be a like material. It would go along with the building itself. It would add great value that looks right, rather than something that's just muggled for today.
Mhm.
So it's something to think about. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
Well, so the one thing that jumps out at me, reading this as best I can, the cornice, so I live a few blocks away and I walk that street a lot. And this building, I was, hope somebody takes care of this little building here, because I live literally 2 blocks away. And I'm curious why you would want to rip all the cornice down, like why? Because I think in your plan, you want to take all that out.
So this plan, when I purchased the building, this was already designed, approved, permitted to build and do exactly what's on this sheet. So everything's already been approved. So the only thing that we're kind of talking about today is the addition of the second story in the back. So like when I purchased this, I purchased the plans, I purchased the approval, I purchased the permit and everything. So I didn't go through and look at the front and say, I want to take all of this stuff off.
You just trusted the package was
I
right.
bought the package, I bought the permitting, I bought the hours of time that architects already spent on all of this, and the 1.5 years of having meetings like this already with everything already approved. So all that's already been taken care of. We just want to add a second level to the back that has been there for a very, very long time, and majority of people that have been living here in Westminster for decades have known that building and next to that parking lot with 2 levels all the way down in between the 2 buildings. So I'm just asking to allow me to do that, but do it safely, properly, with modern building techniques, with foundation. So that's really what we're looking to do. The exterior, with the siding or whatever, we'd be happy to look at that, but we're adding a new part of the building. So unless I put brick veneer on the new part of the building, there's no way it's really going to match. So I totally understand where you guys are coming from about exploring the brick. I'd be happy to look at doing that on the front of the building.
That's already historic.
Or
It's already brick anyway.
cleaning it up or making it look however you guys would want to have it look. But for, the side of the building, that's.
All right, so let me alleviate a little of your fears. I think I'm not going to speak for everybody, but they'll speak for themselves. But just from a very simplistic level of, I just want to build a 2-story structure in the back. I don't think we would have a problem with that. Our value really is in the front.
Yes.
That's really where the historic district, people do look in the back. And we wouldn't want it a rubbish bin or a geodesic dome. But for the most part, the real value is that front front facade.
Mhm.
That's one reason why we have facade grants around here. That's really where the public looks at things and truly enjoys it. That's where your neighbors are actually gonna judge you, not on your trash bins, but on your front sidewalk, you know?
So if we, just to clarify, if you could go back to the front of the
Sure.
building.
Yeah.
If we were able to keep almost all of that the same, just like that. And maybe have them redo the paint or whatever, you know, for the front exterior, keep the window sizing the same. You wouldn't want us to change the sizing of the windows.
Yeah,
Or
maybe add a
change-
few shutters, that would be nice.
Yeah.
A lot of study.
Keep the doors in the same places, the windows in the same places. And all of that, then that would constitute as like what you guys are
That's right.
ideally looking for.
Yeah, if a best practice would be that description.
Best practice would be, don't change anything, keep everything as much as possible. But
Perk it up.
make sure it's perky and
Yeah.
clean it up.
Doesn't that sound like historic preservation?
It does.
Don't touch anything.
Right, yeah, right.
Just to clarify, okay.
And don't paint the sign. You know, I hate to say this, but people love painting brick, but in 10 years you will hate the fact you painted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's a constant, you've bought into a new maintenance problem.
Mhm.
And the side there is not painted and it's 10 years, you're not getting anything there
Yeah,
either.
wasn't planning on doing anything to the side, that side, and, you know, I would be happy to discuss colors or whatever, you know, because it needs to be cleaned up somewhat.
Yeah.
So.
You can clean up and be really careful with that because sandblasting does a lot of damage.
Mhm.
I could show you a house across the street from me that had sandblasting in the 70s. And the paint will not stay on. Every 3 years, they have huge chunks of paint falling off because they blasted out. Yeah, they blasted off dirt. They also blasted off the edge of the track.
Mhm.
So it doesn't stay.
And then, so just to clarify, the preservation money tax credit would be just for the front of the building or the entire exterior.
It could include the entire project. The
Okay.
entire project. And if you kind of follow our lead with replacement in kind and preserving all the fabric you can, you know, think of it as a quilt, preserving all the fabric you can preserve. The state and the feds will agree, because we're not picking our own rules for our own case. This is actually a national standard that we brought to Westminster.
Understand?
And we're the only community with that 10%, by the way, as far as I know. Anybody else in Maryland?
Not that I'm aware of.
We're it, but we care. You know, why? And we're happy to help you too. You don't have to put these forms out all by yourself.
Mhm.
I'm happy to spend a little time with you. I don't know if these guys probably won't let me, but I can work with Melissa maybe and help you at least navigate the forms. Everybody's got a little more forms. We have a 1-page form that I'm very proud of. Say it's a couple more pages.
I cannot take that, right?
Yeah. Steve's got a few more pages, but it's really the same information, just longer.
Mhm.
I don't know why they want everything longer. And then you can approach the state because they also are the gatekeepers for the Fed money. And basically they'll just say, oh, you have to do federal packaging. And if the state approves it, the feds almost automatically do. Yeah, really, the feds only get involved when you appeal. I've seen some pretty big appeals. Our money is back end. You've done the work, then you tell us you did what you said, and here's the proof, and here's receipts, back end money. And as you pay taxes, you have to pay your taxes to get a tax credit. State and federal money is instant on your taxes. But when you're at that $33,000 from my refund,
But you have to apply before you.
everything has to be applied
Approved
before. But 1 page, how hard is that? You could bring it to our next meeting. Not that hard. Some pictures, you know, a little budget info, and make sure your cousin Sam isn't doing all the work.
Mhm.
You don't get paid for any sweat equity.
Yeah.
Yeah, but neither does the state or the feds. And same ones. We do have a threshold of 10,000 or 5,000. 5,000. What's our
Tax
threshold?
credit, it's 10% not to exceed 5 years.
But what's the baseline? 5 grand or 10? What do they have?
I don't know if there is a baseline.
There
Is there?
I think we knocked it from 10 down to 5, but you have a minimum, but with you putting an addition on, it, I think that's not a problem.
Understand, that's something that we're 100% looking for and looking to meet those standards. And again, I did not come up with this package to present to you guys.
That is, no. Because we, oh my gosh, they're married to this.
Yeah.
We have to take the next one.
So but that's also the previous owner had different plans than the plans that we had. They were gonna run their personal business out of here. We are landlords in the community that want to provide a space for someone else to run their business out of. So we're not married to the design. We want to make sure that we are doing our best economically to make sure that it fits with everybody's plans and we try to make everybody as happy as possible, which you know is pretty impossible to do, but we'll do our best.
It's not easy, but you're doing the right thing, coming to us for a pre-planning meeting. And this might be a good time to think about how you're gonna sign that building. I know it's not for your business or your folks, but signage is a whole separate thing. And you might want to think about that because depending on, how you want to bracket it, where you want to put the signage, then that might determine like maybe the electrical or, that kind of thing. This is a good time to just kind of talk with city staff and talk about, what would be the options.
Would the windows be the best?
Oh, the windows would be a good option. There may be a small sign that might be,
No blinking lights.
no blinking.
No.
Oh,
No, LEDs. Um, There's something called a blade sign on that. So it's
Or
also,
those little, what are they called, the little trumpet? What is lights called?
Goosenecks.
oh, who's
Gooseneck lady?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even like, the ones that come out a little bit,
Mhm.
so that it goes sideways instead of out front. So you see the building the same, but the sign is from the sidewalk or if you're driving down the road.
Yeah, but at night you might want to look at that place from a business perspective and say, I only want one door used, so that's where I'm gonna put the light, be clear. Something to think about now before you finish doing the construction.
Absolutely.
It may not be your indication that you want, but somebody will say, hey.
Well, it is
No,
currently set up as 2 separate spaces.
Are you gonna break down any walls inside?
The inside, there's already a space to go through the 2. It's already there. So we're not,
You don't have to break any walls down. is what
no
I'm hearing.
man.
That's good. That's again, the state and the feds will say, good,
So
good on you.
it has the ability to be 1 space or 2 spaces.
And honestly, it sounds strange for me to say, but this encouragement of adaptively reusing historic spaces is exactly what these credits are designed. They want to see people coming in, buildings alive. They want to see people using them. They don't want empty spaces on Main Street and worse, buildings that are left to become neglected and rotted. Nothing you can do with a rotted building. But something like this can be repurposed and still look like it was there in 1880. We're not fooling people, but we are definitely making sure that you and your neighbors are all in harmony. We don't stick out. Not the Kmart version anyway. All right, have I said enough to these poor people?
Yeah, I just have one, and it's hard to tell from the little drawings. I understand that you need a handicap ramp, and I don't know if that could go on the side or the back. But I noticed in town that they are pretty industrial looking, and I know they can be more sympathetic in the front. And again, I can't tell what this is like, but it's something you might want to consider so it doesn't overpower, you're just throwing a handicap ramp. One that is obviously to code, but it's a little more sympathetic and as you said, fades.
Yeah, you shouldn't look at that black bollards, and that's all we can see here is just these.
Right.
Kind of black bollards, and I'm sure this is just to indicate you're going to code and you're doing everything you can for the public. But maybe you could pick something a little softer. You know, something where the don't just slap you in the face when you're looking at that facade, but something where the colors might fade towards the back. Now, the doors are not actually changing in elevation, so maybe there might be something wider.
Understand, there will be a ADA back. So that you'll be able to access.
Yes, yeah.
The one number 71 from the side in the back, and then next to the red right there, there'll be a ramp going up to other space.
And there's one other thing that's actually a plus on this, and that is the historic districts like to see things sort of in concert. So it's not like you're putting 5 stories up. It's just 2, right? And that goes along with your neighbors, that goes along with the sight lines, sticking up, you know, there's no grain silo out of the back. It's definitely a small urban structure. So like farmhousey, put that out of your head, that belongs in the farm. This is a little city property. So have it look like a little city property, not a dirty city property, but a little 1880s city property.
Understand.
So maybe even a porch or something could be done. Other sleeping porches are out there too. So I don't want to change all your plans. I know you've got a lot yesterday.
Understand.
Did I miss anything, Grace?
No, I think the definitely keeping the brick at the side, that's the first thing I noticed. And then the ramp on the front. Because as you said, walking downtown, I've seen some where they're like, oh my God, what were they thinking?
I know, I think it was just cheap, is what it was.
Yeah,
And it
Yeah.
really looked
So, right, these tax credits are designed to offset the expense of doing it right.
I would prefer to not have to do anything and just redo the steps that are already there and leave it as it is, but unfortunately, you can't do that. So,
But if you have access ramps to the building, because there are businesses downtown that have a little step like that, and their handicap ramp is on the side or in the back, and they don't, and even though you have to step into the front, as long as they have those in the back,
a
do
lot
you
of
have
times
to?
you need a railing.
Well, the railing, I mean, they're all in the back or they're on the side. So do you need to have 3, or would the 2 allow you,
I'm not an expert on any
maybe you
of
just
that.
combine out and then,
Think about it,
yeah,
think about how necessary it really is.
because
Understand.
as long as you have access in there.
I think because are they separate, is it separate at the back? Like you said, you're not breaking down any walls.
Correct.
So I think maybe because they're separate
Mhm.
There needs
units,
to be a front access.
there probably needs to be, yeah.
And that's better than breaking down a back wall.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want, the goal is to have people come downtown, be walking down the street and be able to walk into these places, whatever someone decides to put there, you know, and not like, oh, get in here. You'll have to go
No.
around the side or around the back, so there needs to be some sort of.
Making that
front.
setting is important.
So,
It can be, you can look at downtown, there's settings that are better than others, you know, that aren't so industrial.
Yeah, you make it,
Alex Masters, if I could.
Yes.
This front one is not a handicap ramp. It's just stairs. The reason you have to do this is by building code. If you have new commercial space and you come out, you have to come out to a landing. So that's why you can't just come out with these steps that drop right off the door. So this is just a landing you come out to. I'm not sure what the dimensions are. Then you have stairs coming off the side versus stairs coming straight off the sidewalk. So the ramp, there's no handicap access here. It would be
so this is not a handicap ramp here?
No, these are just steps.
I'm sorry.
They're not easy ramps.
Yes, these are just steps accessing in to meet code.
And it doesn't have to be because it's separate.
So you have to have some level of handicap access.
right.
And they will be, if this is a handicap spot, that's where you tell
sorry.
people, and they provide, and we're providing the sidewalk
Okay.
element here that gets back to the alleyways. So they're providing handicap accessibility in some fashion into the building.
Yeah.
So
But the new landing.
So that's
could be
even
a
easier.
real-
it wasn't there before. So they're doing it right, like you're suggesting, you put it behind the building, act as in, and you stand in person in the front like we've seen.
and now because it was existing commercial space, do we have that have the stairs as it is on the.
Once you get a building permit and they'll make you do this low landing coming out.
That's why it's there.
Okay, I thought it was a handicap ramp. I mean, I couldn't, I was looking, and I just saw that, because this is what a lot of them look like down there.
We have
Make nice spots.
Yeah, no, we do have access from the back. and
Okay,
we can back
This
there.
is even easier then.
So
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah.
It's a requirement. For fire escape, a fire exit too, so that's the other reason why the railing, you can't just blow out of a door and then fall. You have to hit something and direct you to. So, yeah, so this is pretty minimal
But
compared
you
to what
can
we
get
see downtown.
really nice, like.
So that's easy.
Wire, or not wire. It's small.
Oh,
metal
yeah,
handles,
that was nice.
You know what I mean?
That's- Yeah, okay, that's,
And they're not big handles, but something, those are expensive, by the way.
Talking about like the slim wire.
that wire, that's like on the decks.
That sounds great. I mean,
They'll figure that out.
modern and easy. Yeah, like I said, we are not married to the exterior design.
So here's the good news, bad news. Good news is there's money you probably didn't even know about. Good news is we don't mind you doing a two-level structure in the back. Bad news is you really want that front to stay as true to what it is today as it is only. Yeah. That's the back. And it's, you know, you don't have to accept the tax credits, but if you want to, we will do the very best we can to make it not too miserable.
Understand?
Can't promise you it won't be miserable, but not too miserable.
And that is a tax. I'm gonna watch the YouTube video.
It's a tax. Right.
We'll shoot you emails tomorrow for that, links and everything, and the application's fairly simple, we can sit down with you about that. It's getting the quotes, which I'm sure you probably already started working on, of the work being done, and then we can bring that back before the Historic District Commission next month. This was primarily, again, to allow me to continue and get the comments to them for the simplified site plan. I don't want to provide comments in the absent design and.
Yeah, and if you said that we love the front, I would have had to kill you.
I know it's hard to read, it just says remove and replace cornice, there was never an idea to get rid of it, it was the concept of if there was damaged, anything's damaged, it was supposed to be replacement in kind. They weren't gonna rip everything down, replace, it was to look at what was by the plan that's there today. We wouldn't, it's still showing the cornice on the elevation, it was the thought that there might be some of those cornices that need to be.
And there's still
Fixed.
maybe,
Yeah.
if someone gets up there to inspect, you may find some spots, but repairing it. A, far cheaper and B, far truer to district fabric
Understand.
repairing. Okay, some great resin patches out there that will last longer.
And it's exactly what it is, so when I provide my comments, I'll make reference to replacement in kind, not
Thank
tear
you.
down, replace.
It's a good reason why we're having a meeting.
Perfect. Do you guys have any recommendations on people to do the
Absolutely.
restoration type of stuff?
You can talk with city staff and you can see previous people of record who've been successful. That doesn't mean we're saying they're good, bad, or ugly, but you can see previous successful contractors.
Sounds great.
And then, of course, maybe somebody will slide you a note quiet. As a commission, we gotta be super careful about who we.
I totally understand. Not a problem. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything the right way. That's why we're here. We want to make sure that we're involving everyone and doing it the right way.
100% is more people like that.
Yeah.
I figure we're all partners in this because we're investing. The thing is that we've already invested in the city. Like, we already own this building. We have to get it done. If we can't work together, then that means I have to then sell it, lose money, decide not to invest in the city, and then someone has to start this process all over again for what they want to do. So that means that it sits downtown vacant, and every week and rainstorm and snowstorm that goes by, it becomes less and less likely that they can restore it like you guys want to.
To
make it
the
better.
word to go out that we're so difficult and horrible. We're only difficult, we're not horrible, you know, that's the thing. It's trying really hard, you know, to not put that word out into the universe.
Well, it's nice to to do it in the beginning instead of, like Mark was saying, everything's already done, and then we're like, hey, because it's quite a bit per hour just to present these plans in front of you, to then go back and have to change everything all over again.
It is absolutely really difficult, but I think if you gave us too much left documentation and then you've already invested, we could have a million questions. So this is probably the sweet spot,
Perfect.
probably the sweet spot. And I can tell
Let me
you.
put makeup on the front of the.
And we make recommendations that we're cheaper than most, you know, because we don't want anything to change, so. Hopefully we'll be helpful.
Excellent.
Are the floors, I mean, I was in there, the one is, it was a coffee shop for a while.
Yeah.
Are the floors original throughout, or are they ripped up?
They are old, obviously old, but they're not level. The two,
There.
it's not all there, and the two levels are
I'm just
complete,
curious.
they're different levels too.
Mm.
Like, so the one on the side is lower than the other side. So the only way to have it be one fluid is you have to have something. Luckily, there was already something there, so we won't be knocking the wall down, but it'll kind of flow.
Depending on how much ceiling room you have, you might be able to simply fill in. You know, rather than rip out the old level, just cover it up with a higher level to match.
They're trying to put one step down to get into
Stuff
that
like that.
second space. And
That
make
would
it
work too.
really, really easy. But in regards to like the windows and everything else, you guys are good with the windows on the sides? And all of that?
We
Really good.
recommend, you know, people are gonna see that, right? So don't cheapen out with vinyl. Always some good wood, double glazed, triple glazed windows, something that really doesn't have that fake panely look, you know? Or. But I think I'm sure it would be nice, but not required. That could be a future thing, but it could also be covered under the credit.
Okay,
But yeah, little light in there. It would be great, better for the state and the feds if you could demonstrate there used to be some windows along there. If there's any way to peek and see if there were windows, because then you're just recapturing.
from the inside on the second floor, we might be able to see if there was one on that side of the.
You know, there weren't.
I know.
I think they were on the front and the back, from my recollection. I think they were on the front.
Maybe there was something in that parking
What about,
lot then.
Sandboard map or something like that, you think that would show on the side? No,
Yeah, you'd have to just look for old photos. And the historical society is a great place for that.
Yeah.
Also, have you looked on our page on the website? Your building should be listed individually. And there's a little history with that. There's usually, you know, a picture from the 1970s. Whether it shows the side or not is another thing entirely.
what's that
Understand.
website?
It's on our website. But I bet Mark will tell you our web link. It's
I can shoot you all that.
not a secret, he'll tell you. But you can look up, it's a little write-up in the book, The Building of Westminster. And then if you have what's called a CARR number, it's individually inventoried, and there'll be a couple, 3 pages on your property.
Perfect.
That'll say who used to live there and how it was used historically. It might inspire you, you know, if it was a tailor shop, you know, then you might call from that and say, oh, this could be the weaving room, or this could be the, you know, button stitch room or something. I mean, there's ways that you can kind of get inspired from the history that was there.
Understand. Excited to look into all that. I'm really glad we came today to learn from the 3 of you and get an idea on what you were looking for and how, you know, we can partner together and, you know, try to keep the aesthetics of downtown historically where they need to be, while also changing it and turning a building that's been vacant, not looking to into the 21st century. So
Less efficient, just efficient use, not using it, is certainly not an efficient use. Safety, of course, and then first and foremost, to start that.
understand.
That's, you know, where our hearts are. So much into aesthetics here. Somebody else gets to beautify Westminster, but we try to do what we can that's still.
Yeah, it's all about the front, understand.
About the front, mostly about the front, mostly about what people see and value. And you're in the main drive, man. You guys are ambassadors, people coming looking for history.
Why we got it.
All right, so I think we're done. The city staff agree we're done with new item A. If you want to go, you may go. If you want to stay in here or make public comments, you're welcome to stay.
I think we'll let them.
All right, we'll move on then to historic commissioner comments. And we'll start with Chris. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
No comments.
No comments. Grace.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to have you back. We'll leave of absence.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Well, I guess I get to fill your ears up, guys. So, let's see, National History Day I've been working on, and I'm gonna remind you that we're gonna need people to help us on the 25th, if possible. I know you're gone, right?
Well,
You
yeah.
have people or something.
I'm gonna be in Pennsylvania. I mean, that Saturday is always, I'll talk to you, yes, but
It's this month?
Yes, okay. I'm gonna need a table full of stuff, Melissa. We usually put out like the big map if we can find it, and the little maps people can take with them about the historic district. Usually a spiel about taxes. We usually have some handouts for that.
but I'm up for flower and jazz. Do that.
Well, that's coming up
Yeah,
next.
yeah.
That's Flower and Jazz will be coming up. Keep that on your calendar. Back to History Day at the high school. That little group that I've been going to, the Celebrate America group, is for some reason really taken off. They're talking not only about doing National History Day with this little history expo of all the tables of all the various partners in Celebrate America, but they're still talking about doing the September History Expo as well. And that September History Expo during COVID was there because National History Day wasn't happening at the high school. So they're jazzed about still having a history expo sometime in September or October. We don't really have a theme yet. Before we had a theme on historic foodways, Carroll County. So we thought we were gonna get somebody from the Native American group to come and talk about Native American foods available in this area, and somebody from Farm Museum coming talking about making cornbread and, open hearth setting. And we're gonna have a variety of speakers. Want somebody to do brewing, like colonial brewing or something. Some of those kinds of topics that might be trendy and interesting.
Yes, right.
So this group is continuing to think about what we're gonna do in the fall. And I'm a little surprised because I thought that was gonna shift back to National History Day. So now we look like we're having 2 events a year. They're also getting a little better with public promotion. Our lead person is with the library, and the library's got great resources for branding, logos, that kind of thing. That's gonna be fun. And as a group, Celebrate America and the City of Westminster were invited to Union Mills Public House in Frederick yesterday. And Mark showed up on behalf of the city, and that was hosted by the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. And the purpose of heritage areas are twofold: public education and preservation, as well as tourism. So heads and beds matter. And it's a 3-county heritage area: Carroll County, Frederick, and Washington County. It just so happened to be the president of that organization. So I had a great time yesterday with Mike introducing people in the beginning and getting the door prizes out at the end. But it was a good day, I think. I'll let Mark speak for him though. But we had a focus all day yesterday on the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution.
Oh.
And although 2026 sounds like a long way away,
Yeah.
if you're going to do something meaningful, something that will stand up as the memorial for the nation in our grassroots area, 3 years is not that far. So if you look around town and say, well, what do we do for the bicentennial? I'm gonna put you two on the test. Do you know where you can see anything about that? Oh, this is so unfair.
No.
Belgrove Square has the DAR monument that's
Yes.
big. And that was pretty much all we know from the bicentennial from 1976 here. And for the centennial, any guesses? Mark's smiling because he knows. It's the Centennial Park. It's Belgrove Square was identified as the Centennial Park. That's why it was built and given to the city as a centennial gift for 1876. And there's a lovely stone monument there. So this would be the Sunny Sister Centennial, 250th. We want to do more than just a parade that everybody will forget and a monument. It's time to start thinking. I mean, there might be a wastewater plant that needs a name or
A bigger monument.
a parking lot that needs a name, or there might be something in 30 years that we can use as a celebration in town that stands the test of time, right? That isn't just that nobody sees the next day. So it's time to put our thinking caps on. Something semi-sesquicentennial-ish that we can go for money. There are grants out there. I also know that what we learned yesterday is the money that's coming down the road is not necessarily going to be labeled semi-sesquicentennial. In fact, we think it's going to be a pretty weak national leadership. We saw the national leadership yesterday, Emily Sexton, nice lady, but there's just really no congressional money bags like there was for the bicentennial. And the state, I don't know if you remember, the bicentennial for the War of 1812. 2012. That was it. So I'm thinking that the message to us all is, if we want to do something, we have to do it. We'll do it with the heritage area. There will be some money advantage to the 250th projects. There will be some curriculum that's coming out for the schools. But we'll need to think bigger in partnerships. We'll need to think bigger in finding like AmeriCorps money, students who can do that kind of research. And 3 years is not very far.
No.
It really isn't. So I'm going to ask Melissa to make sure that the semi-assessments, please, or even if it's like no report,
Okay.
just something that we don't forget. Mark, do you want to piggyback on this for staff comments on this?
I had a great time. I learned a lot actually about Carroll County because I got to sit with the Carroll County group as we were asked some questions and how we look back in history and some interesting things as we move forward. I thought it was interesting about, even though it's not Westminster, that Sykesville was flooded and they rebuilt from the other side of the river. That was kind of, I don't know if you're aware of that. It used to be in Howard County. It got flooded out and they moved the whole town over to Carroll County. I thought that was interesting, but just some of the other history that we had in Westminster and Carroll County was.
You were in an unusual spot because they randomly placed us and Mark got put in a Carroll County table. So you sat with the mayor of
Sykesville.
Sykesville and a mayor's representative from Tawnytown, Minchie, or Michi.
Is that, and then, yeah, no, but he had to go unfortunately, but I got to enjoy his time prior to that. And a lot of school teachers, history teachers from Carroll County Public School System, Which
Social
were-
studies.
which was awesome, because they added a lot of information about just how the city grew up and developed, so that was interesting as well.
Those are the firecrackers that are running Celebrate America.
Yeah.
They're doing great. So, it was a good day all around. We had different levels of government, different partners. I sat at a table with the DAR and the SAR. And Emily from the US national level 250. And I began the day with, can't remember her name, but she was the Maryland person. Oh, Elizabeth Hughes was there, the SHPO for the state historic preservation officer for the whole state. She was only with us for half the day. That was great. So things are popping this month. I have a lot to do. 2 meetings with the city. Things are popping. All right, anything else from city staff for our meeting tonight?
No.
Then, any public comment?
I don't know.
No public comment. So with that, then I think we've covered all the business for this evening. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to. I second.
I think we're adjourning. Thank you, everybody. Let's vote.